Well, hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Meira Blaustein. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Woodstock Film Festival, which is now in its 23rd year. And for those of you who don't know when the festival takes place, it's a fall festival. This year, it's going to be September 28th to October 2nd in Woodstock, New York, and neighboring towns and villages. So please check us out on woodstockfilmfestival.org and come visit. We also do a lot of events year-round. We do screenings and workshops and masterclasses and gatherings and film labs and film residencies. So there's a chock full of stuff that the Woodstock Film Festival does. Again, please check us out and join us. And now it is such a pleasure for me to welcome the two individuals that are joining us today. The film Lunana, a yak in the classroom, I watched it just a few days ago and I absolutely loved it. So I think that everybody who's watching this should also watch the film. It's an amazing fit for a first-time director from a remote country in Bhutan. And joining us to talk to the filmmaker is Gaetano Maida. He is the executive director of the, and please forgive me, Gaetano, if I'm botching this, but the Buddhist International Foundation, or Buddhist National Foundation.
Buddhist Film Foundation, and we run the International Buddhist Film Festival.
Buddhist Film Foundation, thank you. and Gaetano is going to speak to the filmmaker, Pawo Choyning Dorji, and he is a Bhutanese filmmaker. This is his first time film, and lo and behold, he's nominated for an Academy Award. So we wish you all a lot of success. And Gaetano, please take it from here. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Woodstock Film Festival, for inviting us, and welcome, Pawo, and congratulations on your nomination. I'm sure you're enjoying the hullabaloo in Los Angeles. I can see that you are enjoying the sunshine. You know, this is a historic nomination. It's the first time that a film from Bhutan has reached the nomination stage, and I'm sure it's made a lot of noise and gotten a lot of attention in your home country. Tell us a little bit about what it means to be a filmmaker from Bhutan at the Academy Awards.
Thank you so much, Tano. Good seeing you. Good being in California, and I thank the Woodstock Film Festival for organizing this. I just wish, the cause and conditions permitted me to be there in person and we could have this conversation in person. But, we live in the age of Zoom, so everything is now virtual. Yes, going back to your question, this is a historic for Bhutan. We live in a time where, the political identity, the sovereignty of nations are not just defined by their political standing and independence, but also the abilities of the nations and the countries to carve out their unique space in the artistic, cultural spheres of life. And for me, to be frank, Tano, looking at the history of the Academy Awards, I actually had absolutely no hope that a film like mine by a first-time director from a small, poor Himalayan country like Bhutan would progress. And I actually submitted the film, to try and have some sort of Bhutanese representation on an international, platform. And the interesting thing is when I submitted the film, we had, we had some delays because the Academy didn't even have Bhutan as a choice of a country you could choose. It didn't even have my own national language in there. So, that's going back to what I mean by having this cultural artistic representation on an international platform. But, it's been surprise after surprise. It was a big surprise to get shortlisted. It was an even bigger surprise to get nominated, but we're here. It feels amazing. It feels surreal. for everyone in Bhutan, it's a big a moment of big pride, because you know Bhutan well. We don't really have we don't get represented in international levels, and this is a first for Bhutan. So it has captured the hearts of every Bhutanese, right from the yak herders in Lunana, the monks and yogis in remote monasteries, the city dwellers, young and old. And, I really want to use this opportunity to thank the Academy members for voting for us, for giving Bhutan this platform to showcase itself, particularly in this particular time, because COVID has been, been so difficult, and it's been especially difficult for Bhutan because, as I said, we are a very poor country, and because we don't have the infrastructure to deal with COVID, every time there's one case, the entire country goes under lockdown. So we have been under lockdown in and out. Even now, for the last 3 months, we have been in and out of lockdown for the last 2 years. A lot of people are suffering. The economy is doing really badly. And this news of this little film being represented here at the Oscars has given a boost of hope and, a reason to celebrate. So thank you so much to the Academy.
Well, your film deserves the attention, no question about it. It has extraordinary landscapes and really delightful performances. But I think the key is the story that you chose to tell. And the real question for you is, where does this story come from, and what is storytelling for you coming from Bhutan?
Tano, I've said this in a number of my Q&As as well. In English, when we say, tell me a story, it's just tell me a story. But in Bhutan, when you say, tell me a story, there's a very beautiful way of saying it. It says, please untie a knot for me. So the act of telling stories almost has this liberating, untying, freeing purpose. And, that's what stories are supposed to do. It's supposed to teach people to be better in human beings, to try and benefit other beings, to better yourself. And with Lunana Ayak in the classroom, that was something I wanted to do. I wanted to tell a story that reminded the Bhutanese about this moment where the country finds itself. Around the world, everyone knows us as this happy country, but we do have real issues that I've tried to highlight in this film. We are supposedly the happiest country, but we lose thousands of Bhutanese every year who are migrating elsewhere, searching for their happiness. We have, hundreds of teachers who are not inspired to teach anymore. And, we are a country in transition, and in this quest, in this rush to become developed, to become educated, to become modern, we are actually forgetting and letting go of a lot of the wisdoms and traditions of our forefathers, which I've also tried to highlight in this film. And that was the reason why I wanted to make this film. I wanted to touch upon these issues and try and remind the Bhutanese about our precious culture and spiritual traditions.
Well, you chose quite a unique location. How did that come about?
Well, I think it's not just with the Bhutanese, but it's a common trend with people all over the world, and that is, whatever we seek, we are always trying to seek it in the light, in the modern, in the urban. That's why people from Bhutan, which they are all leaving for urban centers, Western civilization. Like they want to go to New York, they want to go to LA, they want to go to Sydney. And because of this trend, I wanted to try and create the story where we put the protagonists at the opposite end. So if we are seeking for what we are seeking in the urban, in the modern, in the well illuminated, then how about we try and go the opposite end, into the most remote, into the most desolate, into the most backward. And interestingly, as the name Lunana translates to the dark valley. So can we find what we so desperately seek in the light, in the darkness, in the shadows. So
Well, Lunana is very special in Bhutan, in that it is probably the most remote village in the entire country, which itself is quite remote. How did you land in Lunana?
well, Lunana is the most remote part of Bhutan. And, so my idea was, okay, let's try and take the protagonist and make the story happen in the most remote part of Bhutan. And in the years before I settled on the idea of Lunana, I kept going to remote parts of Bhutan. I went to the east, hiked about 4 days up into the mountains, in the west, in the north. And no matter how much I tried, how remote I went, Tano, it's sad. The reach of modernization, the reach of globalization is so strong. You can never get away from it, no matter how remote I was. And finally, I was talking to this yak herder in the village of Laya, which is like on the way to Lunana. And I told him, I was like, you're supposed to be very remote, but then I'm getting everything here. You're so close to the Chinese border. Like everything is here. You get Chinese beer. You get all these. There's even a shop that sells Chinese products. So you could feel there was still modernization there. And when I told him this, he was like, "Well, then you have to go to Lunana." And that was when the idea first came in. But in Bhutan, when you say make a film in Lunana, you could have just said, "Oh, let's try and make a film on the moon," because it's so remote. There's no electricity there. There is no telephone there. How do you do that? So there was a big challenge. Just when you think about it, and when you say, "Okay, I want to shoot a film in Lunana," now how do we get that done? It took a long time to even like prepare.
Well, how were you able to maintain a crew and a production team at a remote location like that with no electricity, et cetera? This is a challenge. It would be a challenge anywhere, but how did you accomplish this?
Oh, I have to give a big shout out to our production team, particularly our line producer who worked, for a year and a half to get things there. After we zeroed in on Lunana, I actually, Tano, I have to be frank, till we actually got there and till we pressed the camera button, I didn't think this could be done. But my line producer, Pema Tamang, she kept telling me, she was like, Pawo, don't worry, if you want it to be done, I can get it done. Just give me the time and the resources. And she was busy for about a year and a half. She had an army of mules who carried up all the gear. And we had to do this very skillfully, because if you're going to go up with a crew of 35 people, live up there for 2 months in a place with no electricity, how are you going to feed them? There's no refrigerator to, there's no like, you can't like run over to Costco and get the fresh vegetables and fruits. So we had to carefully plan everything. We had to get non-perishable, vegetables and grains and all that to take up. We had to prepare our solar batteries, our solar panels, and the year and a half of pre-production really put everything in place. We had to build our own, like production offices, dining halls. It was very tough, very tough. But I must give credit to my crew and cast who willingly stayed in this location for almost 3 months. Putting up with all kinds of hardship. Living conditions were very tough. Being cut off from loved ones for that long, it was tough. But I feel like their hardship, their experience, translated onto the film.
I think you're right. There's no question
because
about it.
everyone actually went through the journey of Ugyen,
For those who haven't seen the film, Ugyen is in fact your star. But tell us a little bit about casting. It must have been kind of a challenge because Bhutan is not known for having a professional acting community.
Yes. When we were casting for the movie, number one, most of the characters are Highlanders. What do we do? Do we as you rightly mentioned, we don't have any professionally trained actors in Bhutan. You know, what do we do? Do we cast non-professional city people to play Highlanders, or do we cast Highlanders who have never seen the outside world to play themselves? And we felt like the second option was a safer bet, so we went with that. And I think, you know, I think the audience here will have to realize this. All the Highlanders who are in the movie, they have never been beyond their village. So they have never seen film. They don't know what cinema is like, you know. And I think many people would think that that would be a disadvantage to us, but that was actually a big advantage for us because they had no concept. I think people like you and me, like even if we are film people, even if we love film, we go to the cinema all the time, we watch all kinds of films, we attend film festivals. The moment we are put in front of a camera and then someone says, okay, Tano, Pawo, okay, act. We can't, right? Because we have these concepts. And for these people, they didn't have any concepts. You know, we just put the camera there and they didn't care what it was. Something that I did try to do was I tried to adapt the script to their life stories. So they were actually being themselves rather than putting on a performance. And, you know, in some of these classroom scenes, what we did was we put the camera in the classroom, we press the record button, and me and my crew would actually, like, you know, go out to try and like make it seem like the camera wasn't even on, you know, and we would go out and we would watch the director's monitor outside, and we then, you know, we would just let the class go on its own. So a lot of the scenes were organically captured like that. For the three characters that we have in the movie who are from the city, again, I tried to cast people whose real lives kind of paralleled the character in the movie. So, for example, Ugen, you know, who's the protagonist, he's this disillusioned school teacher who wants to go to Australia, and for him, we casted Sherab Dorji to be that to play him. And when I first met Sherab, you know, he was very articulate. He had a good screen presence. He was confident. He was good in singing. But what really sealed the deal was when I asked him, you know, I'm planning to make a movie in the next 6 months. What's your plan? And he said, oh, I'm thinking of going to Australia. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So we casted him. And well, after the movie, he's still in Bhutan. He didn't go to Australia.
Well, I think the other characters are very interesting. The young girl, and of course, the possible love interest, the yak herder and singer. Where did you discover them? They're jewels.
Well, you know, the love interest, it's quite interesting because she was a difficult one to cast because I wanted someone with the because Highlanders, they look very different, you know. They you could say they have these very beautiful, like weather beaten, you know, Highlander features. It's very, very unique features they have. So I wanted that. But then when I found that girls who had that the look of the character I wanted, they weren't able to sing. And this character is supposed to be a singer. So it was very difficult. And the pool I had up in Lunana was very small because the village only had like 50 people. So I think I only had about like 10 or 15, you know, girls to choose from. But I was, once I had casted Sherab, I was going through his Instagram, and then I saw this picture of this beautiful girl. I messaged him and I was like, who's this? You know, she would work so well for the movie. And he was like, that's my girlfriend. And I said, can she sing? And he was like, oh, she's a better singer than me. So I was like, oh, I want to meet her. So we casted her like that, you know. And actually, it's very interesting. When we were making the film, a lot of the Highlanders in Lunana thought she was a Highlander because she has these Highlander features. So I was very lucky with that. And the little girl who's literally become, I think, the soul of this film, Pemzam, she was a little girl that I discovered in Lunana. I was so fortunate because there were only about 7, 8 children in Lunana, and we discovered her, you know, as one of them. And she came up to me and sang this beautiful song that she sings in the movie, and I thought, okay, she's the one. But sadly, what I realized was because as I was in pre-production and I was spending time with these people, I was learning of their life stories. And, I realized that she came from a broken family. She had no mother. Her father was always drunk. And even with such a harsh, difficult upbringing, she was, so beautifully confident and, optimistic about her life. And that's what I wanted in the movie. And again, trying to make it easier for her, what I did was I basically rewrote the script. So she was just being herself. She was not acting to be as anyone else. So, I think that's what helped her performance.
Her performance is magical, absolutely a key to the delight of the film. Now, this is your first film as director, but this is not the first film project you've been involved with. Maybe can you tell us a little bit about your journey into cinema?
This is my first film, but I worked closely with Kensei Norbu, who is a Bhutanese Buddhist teacher who also happens to be a filmmaker. And Kensei Norbu was coincidentally his first film, The Cup, was the last Bhutanese submission to the Oscars. So in a way, I feel very privileged and honored to be following my teacher's footsteps. Whatever I know of film, Tano, I never went to like film school. Whatever I know about filmmaking is from the Kensei Norbu. I'm a graduate of the Kensei Norbu Film School, you could say. I worked as his assistant on 2 feature films that he had made. One was called Hema Hema Sing Me a Song While I Wait, and the other one was called Vara. And working with Kensei Norbu was a very special experience because being his assistant, you're kind of like involved in every facet of filmmaking. I had to work with him when he was writing the script, for example, right from script writing to casting to location scouting, production design, costumes, and then of course shooting the actual film. I was with him when he was, directing the actors, their performance. Then I was involved with him when he was post-producing the film, so editing, color, and then of course, because Kensei Norbu wears different hats, he can't go and represent the film in film festivals because he's busy being a lama and in a monastery in a remote part of Asia. So many times I had to go and as his representative to the film festivals. So it was a real crash course on every facet of filmmaking. And I think that's the best way to learn it, and you could say I was just fascinated about this whole process of creating. And this is something that Kensei Norbu also always says, that filmmaking is almost the creation of illusions to show people the truth. And I was fascinated by this, how in the months we work so hard to create this illusion. And then at the end, when it comes to life, how we can connect, inspire audiences all over the world. And I was just so drawn by that. And after making Hema Hema, which was in 2016, I decided that I wanted to make this jump and try and make my own film. But I have to add this. I always told Kensei Norbu that his films are very, like Hema Hema is very abstract, and I said that I would, I'm very inspired. I'm inspired by you to make films, but I don't think I have this capacity to tell such profound stories. I said my stories would be very simple, like putting a yak in a classroom.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned Kensei Norbu and that he is a Tibetan Buddhist teacher of some repute. To what extent do you think being from a Buddhist kingdom and being a Buddhist yourself has influenced or affected your work and your outlook?
Oh, so much. Tano, I'm not only from a Buddhist kingdom, I'm, a very, very devout Buddhist. Spirituality is a very, very important part of my life. And I have tried, to show that in Lunana Yak in the classroom. but I've tried to show it in a very subtle way, you know. I think I don't want to, I was very conscious about not wanting to be too preachy, you could say, about what my spiritual beliefs are, you know. But I've tried to show it in subtle ways in this movie. For example, the entire theme of the Yak song, you know. Yes, it's a song, but then if you actually look at the lyrics, it's very connected to Bhutan's spirituality and Buddhist belief, in this belief of interdependence, you know. You know, we Buddhists always say that all phenomena are interdependent, and as in the Yak song they sing, you know, the yak is interdependent to the herder is interdependent to the yak, and the world that we live in, everything is a cyclic existence. And you know, even the relation between the teacher and the village headman, this beautiful belief that, you know, the yak is returning home, and you know, so I've tried to add that. There are also elements like, for example, the Bhutanese belief about the snow lion, you know. There's this scene where the teacher who's educated, who's modern, he's looking at these glaciers that have melted away, and then he says, oh, you know, this is global warming. But then the yak herder says, oh, I believe that the snow and snow lion, you know, for them, snow and ice is their home. And I worry that with the disappearing snows and ice, the snow lion will not have a home anymore. And the reason why I put this is because actually snow lions are mythical, you know. Who has seen a white lion with blue mane? You know, it's mythical. But then in Bhutanese belief, what we believe is that snow lions represent the heart of enlightenment. You know, they are courageous, they are noble, they are majestic, they are fearless. And in a way, what this yak herder, uneducated yak herder, is telling the educated teacher is that because of overconsumption, because of greed, because of, you know, global warming, the heart of enlightenment is slowly disappearing from our world. So I try to do, you know, to try and play around with the stories, to try and, you know, present what Bhutanese Buddhist spirituality is through stories.
Well, tell us now, considering that Lunana is very much a representation of your wish, and we're absolutely delighted with it. What's next for Pawo?
Well, I'm fully getting into this occupation as a filmmaker. I was encouraged by Films Boutique, our film sales agent, to try and, you know, build on what we were able to achieve with Lunana, and, you know, to try and make a second film. So I was actually in the pre-production phase of my second film, which is titled, it's a working title, it's called Once Upon a Time in Bhutan. And it is similar to Lunana, that we touch upon, you know, the stories of, you know, the clash of cultures, you could almost say, because, you know, Bhutan is so unique. Believe it or not, we were the last country in the world to connect to the internet. We were the last country in the world to connect to television. And all this happened in the early 2000s, you know, when everyone else was already on board this digital, you know, freight train, we could say. And we were the last ones. And we only decided to jump on because we realized that we were the only non-modern, non-digital entity in a digital world. So we had to keep up, we had to adapt to keep ourselves relevant. So when that happened, you know, very, very interesting things were taking place in Bhutan, you know. Like, imagine a country that didn't have television, you know, throughout the centuries. So all of a sudden they have TVs, and, you know, very, very interesting stories were taking place. So this story takes place at this moment of transition. And I hope that, you know, I can shoot this film in the coming months. Right now, with the COVID situation in Bhutan, it looks quite challenging, but I hope, you know, we can do it.
Well, we hope you can too. We wish you a lot of luck at the Oscars on March 27th. And we certainly will be watching for your next film when it's time. So thank you for coming on board here. Thank you
Thanks so
for your
much,
film,
Dano. Thank you.
and enjoy your week in Los Angeles.
Thank you.